Hey, this is Tim, bringing you Words of Grace right outside our church building, and I'm going to walk over to the office. I wanted to chat with you a little bit about cold. What do we learn from cold? We learn some things about the Lord and about ourselves. We learn a whole bunch. We learn that we need to bundle up, right? We learn how easy it would be for all of life on earth to die, right? We're so fragile. We're just a little bit closer to the sun, and we'd all burn up. A little bit further away, we'd freeze to death. And so the sustainable life is amazing. But also, God doesn't just place us there, He upholds it. And so winter comes along once a year in New York City, and we get these beautifully cold, crisp days, and I enjoy them. All right, and let me encourage you to enjoy them too. All right, for those of you who are cryaphobic, just a few short months and it'll all be over. It'll be spring, it'll be warm. So enjoy the cold air. Right? Get out of it, take it into your senses and the feeling of it. It's beautiful. It's all a part of how God made the environment work, right? One season triggers the next, and so this cold tells the seeds that it's going to be warm soon, and that they can come out and give us flowers and plants and leaves. So it's all God's plan. Just be patient. But if we could in this cold, remember something about God. Right? The first time He mentioned cold was at a very low point in human history. Everyone had died in the flood in punishment from God because of humanity's rebellion and violence. And so all but 8 people, one family, were left. And in that time, God actually made a promise. He said as long as the planet remains, he would not do that again. He knew that violence and wickedness was in mankind's heart, and yet He would continue to be faithful to His promise. So you find Genesis 8:22, while the earth remains, let me kind of move across the street here. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Genesis 8:22. And it's because of the Lord's faithfulness that we're not consumed, right? Because of His mercy, His grace, His loving kindness, based on that promise, based on His faithfulness. God will keep His promise. This cosmic law of His is disobeyed all the time by everyone. And yet He's continuing to be patient, continuing to give us cold, winter, and summer. So our words of grace today come from a letter written to the church of Corinth that talks about God's faithfulness. That He will be consistently faithful. The church in Corinth was unfaithful to God. They did not follow out His desires for a Christian community. Yet even in there, 1 Corinthians 1:9, we find God is faithful, through whom you were called into fellowship with His Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. God is faithful. And humanity often is not faithful to their promises. Your parents may not have been faithful to their promises, or your spouse, but God is always faithful to His promise. And the winter, the cold teaches us that. So thank God for His faithfulness. Thank God for the cold, and the cold that teaches that He is always faithful to His promise.